Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabe. I welcome you to Euglena. The main species of Euglena and some other related organisms all are called flagellates. Form an interesting group of unicellular creatures since although the majority are plant-like in their feeding. So here we are having our Euglena. Let's first understand our Euglena and look at it. This is our Euglena. It has got a filament or a flagellum. It has got a pigment spot around there. It has a reservoir. It has a contractile vacuole. They are chloroplasts. It has pyrenoids in the chloroplast. That part there in the chloroplast is a pyrenoid. There are very many of them there. And it has got a cell membrane and the nucleus. So that is our Euglena. And we are saying that it is related to other organisms which are called flagellates. Flagellates are those ones that have got the flagellum. This tail here is what we are calling the flagellum. So those organisms that have got that tail or that filament, we refer to them as flagellates. A few of those flagellates, they feed saprophytically. That is like the fungi. Some of them, they feed holozoically, like animals. And nearly all of them possess characteristics which make them more like animals than plant. So all of these flagellates, some feed saprophytically, like the way fungi feed, and other feed like holozoic, like animals. But all of them, they have got characteristics that make them more like animals than plants. So they have both characteristics of animals and they also have characteristics of plants. The Euglena gracilis shows most of the structural features of the family. It shows us most of the features of the family of flagellates or Euglena. We have talked about the different features. We have the pigment spot. There is the flagellum. We have talked of the nucleus, cell membrane. They have the pyrenoid. They have the chloroplast, contractile vacuole, and the reservoir. So Euglena gracilis shows most of these structural features of the family. Euglena does not have a rigid cell wall, and therefore it can change its shape as it swims along. The movement is effected by lashing of the flagellum. So its cell wall is not so rigid. This cell wall that we are seeing outside here is not so rigid. So when it is moving and swimming in water, it can keep on changing its shape. And when it is moving, it uses its flagella to slash around. And that slashing around of the flagellum makes it to move in the water. The food is synthesized as in green plants with the aid of chloroplasts, the shape of which vary in different species. We saw that when you look at our Euglena, it has got chloroplast all over it. When you look at it, it has very many chloroplast pigments all over its cytoplasm. And it is those chloroplasts that are responsible for carrying out photosynthesis, which leads to synthesizing of its food, like the way green plants do it. But the shape of the chloroplast varies depending on the type of the species. If Euglena gracilis is kept in dark, it will lose its green color and become unable to photosynthesize. But it will continue to live if suitable organic matter is present in water. So when we get our Euglena and we place it in darkness, it is going to lose its green color in the chloroplasts. And when, of course, it loses this green color in the chloroplast, that means that now it cannot photosynthesize, meaning it cannot now make food. Therefore, if the environment it is living in has got enough organic matter, it will survive, because it will depend on that organic matter which is in water. So that's why we said at the beginning, they have more characteristics of animals than those ones of plants. So it can survive like an animal and it can survive like a plant. In this respect, it is very similar to some of its relatives in the genus Astacia. So, meaning that if you put our Euglena in an environment which lacks light, it will lose its color and it will not carry out photosynthesis. That means that it will not be able to make its own food. But it will survive if the environment has got organic matter. And it will behave like its relative in genus Astacia. It will depend on this organic matter, like as if now it is like an animal. The other side, when it was manufacturing its food, it was behaving like a plant. These colorless flagellates live only in water, rich in organic materials. such as the fluids in the puddles around the cow sheds. So we have some flagellates that are colorless, meaning that they don't have chlorophyll. Therefore, they cannot make their own food. So for those ones that are colorless, they live in water which has got rich organic material, which they are going to use like their food. For example, the fluids that we find in puddles around the cow shed, it has a lot of organic matter, and it's where we find most of these colorless flagellates. In these puddles, they will absorb the organic substances from their environment and they will use them as food. So they are still looking at the colorless flagellates. Because they lack chlorophyll, they stay in the water which has got or which is rich in organic matter. And they absorb this organic matter from their environment, and it's what they are going to use as their food. They feed saprophytically, although they may still be able to synthesize complex material from relatively simple inorganic chemicals. So now, here you have taken them maybe away from light and they are feeding saprophytically, absorbing these organic materials. But when they absorb these organic materials, they can still use these organic materials and they synthesize simple inorganic or simple complex materials from these simple inorganic chemicals which they have absorbed and which they have fed on saprophytically. They cannot, however, build up starch from carbon dioxide. This is because now they are colorless flagellates. They don't have chlorophyll. And for that reason, there is no way they can use carbon dioxide to manufacture starch. Other colorless flagellates are able to take in solid particles of food materials and they digest them in a way described in the section dealing with the paramecium. So some of these colorless flagellates, as we have seen, they don't have chlorophyll, they cannot make their own food. They do take in solid particles of food materials. And when those solid food materials have been taken into the body, they will digest them, as we shall see in paramecium, how they are digested. This holozoic feeding is essentially an animal characteristics. So you can see now that some of these flagellates, they are behaving like plants. Those ones which have chloroplast and chlorophyll, they carry out photosynthesis. So they are behaving like plants. Now the colorless flagellates, for them again, they are behaving like animals by taking in solid particles of food materials. That is are characteristic of animals. That's why previously we say that they have more of animal characteristics than plant characteristics. Hello, my friends. Thank you very much for participating in Euglena. Please do like, share, and subscribe.